Welcome back to the Weekend Ball podcast. Today I am joined by Crina Mustafa, someone who covers WNBA, now is working for Canada Basketball. I know we're both tennis fans as well, but just thanks so much for doing this and coming on, and we'll talk a little bit about the women's national team. And before I get started, I just want to ask you a little bit about what's it been like for you to work for Canada Basketball, and then obviously see the team make the Olympics as you're working for them.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, I started a communications internship with Canada Basketball at the beginning of this year, so in January, and I'm in my last semester of my sport media degree at TMU, so it's kind of like the last thing I have to do, along with like four other classes, because they love to make your life busy. But no, it's been a really cool experience so far. I think like I pretty much hit the ground running. The senior women's national team had their training camp like my first week working with Canada Basketball. So I got to like hang out with like Natalie Achanwa, Kia Nurse, like all these team members in my literal first week at Canada Basketball. So it kind of felt like after 2 weeks working there that I've been there for like 5 months already. But it's actually honestly been like such a cool experience. And thank God they qualified for the Olympics because that would have been a completely different vibe for sure if they didn't.
Do you have any kind, were you starstruck being around those women like at training camp? Did you know any of them heading into it?
It's funny, like I've covered the W for the last 3 years, and I hadn't had any interactions really with any Canadian players outside of the Canada game last year, where when obviously Bridget was in town,
Hmm.
and Nat was, but she wasn't playing. So really outside of that, I hadn't really ever spoken to any of them before. I wasn't really starstruck, and I don't mean that to sound like high and mighty. It's more so just like once you started to be around more of these players, you're kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, like there have been certain moments, like I went to New York last year to cover a Liberty game in person, and when you walk by Brianna Stewart, then you're kind of
Mm.
like, oh, okay. She's kind of a little bit more on that end of this on the spectrum, especially because of like how tall she is too. So
Yeah.
I think that kind of factors into it. But no, they were honestly like I got to spend 2 days with them and they were awesome. Like they're all super lighthearted. They really love each other. I think like their chemistry, both like on and off the court, is something that really shines through. And just getting to do like one-on-one interviews with them, like just talking to them as if they're like regular people, like just finding these connections, I think I just gained a lot of respect for them. And yeah, it was kind of cool to be around. I definitely had like a moment where I was like, I'm eating lunch with the senior women's national team. And that feels like a weird sentence to say. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, other than that, it was kind of like, yeah, yeah, it's happening.
That's so awesome. And just maybe go through I'm sure the players were asked this question, but I think I should ask you as well, just the emotions running through your mind at the end of that Spain-Hungary game. Obviously not even Canada involved, but just what are you thinking in that final stretch when Spain comes up, comes back and then you can see the Olympics on the horizon.
Oh man, I had that thank you post ready to go. I was talking with Maud, who's the head of digital at Canada Basketball, who is like my supervisor, and we like he gave me the picture to use. I had like the caption all ready to go of like the team huddle. Because like Spain went down like 22 points. So like they were down for a lot of the game. And you're kind of just like, well, this sucks because Canada lost two really close games that they easily could have won. And now this is because of this result. Like this is just Spain has nothing to lose. They've already qualified. And you're kind of just like making peace with the whole situation. And then all of a sudden it's a 9 point game. And then it's a 5 point game. And it's a 2 point game. And they tie it. I'm like, yo, I can't. I'm freaking out. Maud's freaking out. We're like texting back and forth. He's in Hungary. I'm in Toronto covering the game remotely. We're just like freaking out. I get the qualified graphic up to post. My heart is literally like I am screaming. I'm like at this point, I'm like, no one can see me. I'm at home covering this game. I remain professional on the Canada basketball account, but really I'm sitting on my couch like on the verge of a breakdown. And then they win by 1 point. I send out the post, immediately goes crazy on social media because everybody's active, everybody's watching, everybody's going crazy. Can honestly say that is probably like a top three sports moment that I've ever experienced in my life. Like the adrenaline that was pumping through my veins, I can't even imagine how the players were feeling. Like who I'm sure were like changing their plans for the summer the second Spain went down like double digits.
Yeah.
And just to have everything change like in an instant, basically like that, was just like it was just a hell of a ride, roller coaster of emotions. I can't even believe that happened still. Like it's still kind of crazy to me.
I'm just imagining you doing exactly what Silas Swords did and all of the players and just jumping up and down and screaming and like rolling on the ground with excitement. I think that that's maybe you, Crina, for the
That
couple.
was,
After you click, you press send to the
yeah.
tweet, and then you get to celebrate that way. But
It was like an out of body experience, you know? Like you can't feel it. I feel like I was just like watching myself react.
just with that making the Olympics, like how do you think monumental it is for the program now to get to be there for the fourth consecutive time, and how far maybe has the women's team come the past decade or so?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like they've been super consistent in terms of qualifying for the Olympics, where it's kind of gotten to the point where like you expect them to do it, even though like it's still very, very hard to qualify for the Olympics. And I think like setting that new record of making four consecutive Olympics now is super good for the consistency of the program because I feel like even moving forward, you have a good balance of your vets and you have a couple of young ones like Silas Swords, who you just mentioned, a couple of the college players who have now made the national team who are up and coming. And then you have your vets, like you have Captain Nalia Chanwa, you have Shea Colley, Naira Fields, who have all been around for a very long time. Kayla Alexander is another one. And it's just a really good mix of leadership and people who have already been there. And I feel like that's such a good foundation to build. And the fact that they are able to qualify for four consecutive times is really good for experience, even if, and I know the goal is to get a medal and be on the podium, but even if that doesn't happen, honestly, like you're still building towards something. And being this consistent means it's going to happen eventually at some point. Obviously, would love to have it happen sooner rather than later, especially with, this most likely being Nat's last Olympics. So obviously you want that to happen for them. But I just think like consistency is so key, especially in basketball, which is such an unpredictable sport, as we very much saw over the weekend with qualifying play.
And you talked about a Chanwa. Just what does that do for her maybe legacy with this program to make it to four consecutive Olympics? And now she's a mom, of course, and everyone saw the beautiful kind of montages with her and Maverick. And just how do you even describe how awesome and incredible she is?
Man, she is the leader of this team, and it is so apparent. And I think being able to spend a little bit of time with her in Toronto, that really shone through. It shone through in practice, the way that she was leading the team. It shines through when she speaks to media, when she's very well spoken. She knows exactly what the goal is, and she kind of just radiates as a leader in every single way. She was always super pumped up, even when Canada was having a bit of a tough time during their qualifying matches. And I think she just has a way of rallying the group together and has been the one who has been on all these Olympic teams, for those last 4 years and beyond. And I just think like she has just grown so much into that role. And all the players on the team are willing to fight, are willing to do anything for her. And I think that just speaks a ton about her character and just like her passion for Canada
Mhm.
basketball. She very much wears that flag on her t-shirt with a lot of pride. And all of the players do, honestly. So yeah, she's just kind of remarkable. And she like hearing her talk about her son Maverick is just awesome. She's learned, she's even told me and other people just how much she's learned from him in terms of
Mhm.
just like staying in the moment and being grounded and things like that. And I think that's only going to help her with her leadership skills moving forward. So, yeah,
Mhm.
I just think I have so much respect for her, especially after spending some time with her. And I cannot say enough good things about her. And I'm so curious to see what she does in WNBA free agency because that has not been reported on yet. And I know she's probably like, wasn't even thinking about it with this Olympic qualifying tournament, but there's some time now. There's some
Yeah,
time now, so I'm
exactly. Yeah,
excited.
and I'm sure you might get the inside scoop maybe on wherever she does end up going. But with that, like on the court as well, and I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but it wasn't the greatest tournament for Canada. What are some areas you think that Canada can improve upon going into the Olympics?
Yeah, I think number one, they desperately miss Kia Nurse and her shot making. That was to me like the most apparent thing. And like, yeah, Bridget scored a lot of points this weekend, but a lot of her three-pointers weren't falling. And it just felt like, honestly, like half the time, it felt like they were just really tough shots that were just rimming in and out. And that was just like, what can you do at that point? Because the rim is just unforgiving. But they were struggling with their shot making. I think that was the biggest thing. I don't think that's going to happen again. I think sometimes you just kind of have to grind through it. There was a little bit of rust. They hadn't played together since November in Colombia, so that is a factor. Hopefully, they can spend a little bit more time together with training camps leading up to the Olympics, and I'm sure they'll be fine. Kia's fine too, by the way, just so everybody knows. She's very much fine. If you've been following her on socials, you can see her celebrating with the rest of the team. So I'm glad they pulled this one out because they're definitely going to need her healthy and ready to go in Paris. But yeah, I think to me the shot making was the biggest thing because their defense was honestly pretty good. I would say throughout the majority of the time. And that's something that they really harped on in practice, especially head coach Victor LaPena. Like he always said, like, you keep going until we gain possession of the ball. And that is very much the mentality that they play with. And it's very hard, it's very gritty. And I thought they did follow through. It was hard against teams like Japan, who are so quick and so unique in their style of play. But defense always is going to lead to better offense. And I think on the offensive side, it was a little bit of a tough weekend for them. Definitely the biggest thing that I saw.
And with that as well, I thought Kayla Alexander, like she was on the I forget, all first team. I don't know what the
The
specific
starting five.
starting five. There you go.
Yeah.
But she was phenomenal. I think she averaged almost 16 and 13. Just talk about her because she has been a stalwart of this program. Not four Olympics, only three, which is, still a lot. But
Yeah.
maybe talk about her game for this program during the qualification, maybe what she can bring to Paris.
She is such a steady presence. Like she was the MVP. Obviously, like when your shots aren't falling, you need somebody under the basket who is going to fight to get those second chance opportunities. And that's literally what she was doing along with scoring. She's been super solid playing overseas as well in France. I know she's been out of the W for a while. She's another player that I would like to see maybe make a return back to the W at some point, but she's been playing like sneakily good, consistent overseas basketball and has been showing out for Canada as well too. I think they really, really need her presence. And like a lot, that's like it goes back to what I was saying was like they have different people in age groups, but they also have different people in terms of skill sets and like what they can do. So like Kayla is perfect for being on the boards on the offensive and defensive glass. She's perfect for also giving you a solid 15 points per game. Like that to me is like what comes in with the consistency. Who is your most consistent player? And for this tournament, it was her, and she can definitely be that in Paris as well too.
What were some of the players like? I'm thinking about the young players. Like obviously, Silas Swords actually got a bit of a run with Victor LaPena, which was a bit surprising, playing even in the fourth quarters in tight games, and obviously Yvonne Edgem as well played a little bit as well. Just what do you make of the young players coming up for Canada? And I'd be remiss to not mention Aaliyah Edwards, Amma here, who played pretty well as well, Prosper in the NCAA. Just maybe describe a little bit about the current crop of young players coming up.
Man, Silas Swords, if you don't know that name, you better get familiar with it because she is only in high school and she looked great with the pros. She can hang. I think like obviously she can score, but I think her defense is really, really good. The fact that she can keep up with professional players at her age is incredible. She's already looked like strong enough for Victor to be able to rely on her, which I think is huge. And Yvonne Ejim, by the way, is having an incredible season with Gonzaga in the NCAA. I think she's averaging like over 20 points per game, is on like 10 different awards watch lists. She is like Gonzaga is like undefeated in the year 2024. I know she didn't get a lot of minutes. It was kind of she did look a tiny bit rusty in the small minutes that she got, but honestly, like I'm so excited for her development and her continuation with Canada basketball, especially on the senior team, because like obviously doesn't have that much senior team experience yet, but obviously is getting there. Aaliyah Edwards, who may be getting drafted in the WNBA this year, which is super exciting. Obviously, UConn didn't want to let her go for the games that the games that they were playing during the Olympic qualifying tournament, which like totally fair. UConn suffered a ton of injuries this season, so I don't blame them. But she's another player that's exciting. And like Tisha Amma here, honestly, like I was really impressed with her during the Olympic qualifying tournament. I thought she was extremely dominant. I thought she stood her ground. She had like 3 blocks in that last game, huge ones where she would like score on one end and then she'd get back on defense and just block you. And I thought like that was huge for her. Didn't get a ton of minutes in her first year with the Atlanta Dream, but I really think she's a player that can bring impactful minutes, even if it's just for like, say, like 4 or 5 minutes per game, something like that. I think her size, her presence, her footwork like is getting so much better. It's something that she's working on too. So yeah, it's a good crop of young players that you can watch right now, whether it's like high school basketball, college basketball, or the W. And the good news is Canada has all of them.
Exactly. And going into Paris, like, I don't want to ask you to make a 12 person lineup, but maybe who do you think would be the starting five in the first game in Paris, in front of the Olympic experience?
Well, firstly, I'm gonna knock on all the wood possible to hope that everybody is good and healthy and ready to go. Obviously, I would love to see Nat, Kia, Kayla, Shay. Let's see, fifth one. Who am I missing? Hmm. Who am I missing? I'm trying to think.
Good.
There's four I definitely want to see. We'll see what happens with the fifth spot, but definitely those four, I think, just with their experience and their roles on the team too. I'm very curious to see who makes the Olympic roster. That is one thing I'll say, because obviously not everybody who made the qualifying roster
Mhm.
may make the Olympic roster. So I'm very curious to see who gets that spot. I think Aaliyah Edwards played in the last one, so
Yeah,
that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I'll give you four because I can't give you
that's
the
fair.
full five. But
That's okay.
yeah,
That's
that's
fair.
kind of who I would like to see
Yeah.
start.
What you kind of touched upon the expectations, and maybe it's a medal, maybe it's going a bit deeper than maybe making it into the quarterfinals. Like, what are the realistic expectations for this team going into the Paris Olympics?
Yeah, I mean, if you've looked at the last couple of years, they finished like ninth place, eighth place, fifth place, like something like that. I think they would very much like to get a little bit higher than that. I know the draw is taking place on like March 19 or something. So I'm interested to see who they draw. They survived the group of death at qualifying place. So hopefully if they can do that, they can do anything. I would very much like them to not draw USA because I'm a little bit terrified of them.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think like if they keep working, I don't want to place expectations on them. That's the hard part. So I'd rather they just like take it day by day, game by game, focus on each game plan. And I know they have the belief, so then I must have the belief as well too that they can make it far. I'll say at least hopefully fourth place, at
Okay.
least. Just
Okay.
to get higher than what they've done in the last 4 years. I think like they're coming to that natural like tipping point or like peaking point or whatever you want to
Mhm.
call it. And so if there's a time to do it, it's now, especially like I said with some of the vets that are on this team.
I mean, they came fourth place at the 2022 FIBA World Cup, so like they can definitely do it, and that would be awesome.
Yeah.
What would you do if they got a bronze or a silver medal? Would you
Oh my
cry?
God. I would definitely cry. I think I almost cried when they qualified and they weren't even on the court. So yeah, no, I think I would definitely cry. I'd cry for Nat, for sure. I think like just thinking about how much it would mean to her and just like the whole team. If someone starts crying, I will start crying for sure. So I will definitely cry. I'll definitely scream. Like just like when the Raptors won the championship, I kind of just jumped around and screamed everywhere. We'll see where I am if they do something like that. But so I might have to compose myself if I'm in public. But
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. We'll
and make
see.
sure the account is composed as well. The Canada
Yes,
account.
exactly. I
That's
I'm allowed to have like a little bit of enthusiasm, I gotta
yeah.
engage with the people.
Yeah, exactly. Just a lot of exclamation marks, exactly. But before I'd let you go, just obviously the men's team's done really well too. What do you think about the prospects of having a joint training camp together, and what how cool that would be maybe if it was in Toronto at the OVO Center with, Shay, and obviously, there's Kyle and Kayla, Yvonne and Melvin, like there's brothers, sister, siblings, and like
Hmm.
intertwined in Canada basketball. How cool would that be?
Oh, it would be awesome. And I know they're also going to be waiting to see if the 3x3 teams will qualify
Yep.
as well too. So like it would be so cool to have like as many Canada teams qualify as possible and then work together. Like I think that just speaks to the success of the Canadian program and where Canada basketball is headed in general. I think obviously like it's been a little bit dominated by USA basketball for a while, and it'll be nice for, the upstairs neighbors to just put their piece to the puzzle.
Yeah, I know exactly. And maybe see, Dylan Brooks destroy LeBron James in the gold medal final. And then we have Nata Chanwa doing that to Brianna Stewart. I think that would be
That would be incredible
incredible.
content.
Yeah,
Incredible.
that would be a lot of memes. I feel like a lot of memes would be there. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
Brooks is a meme of itself. But before I let you go, is there anything you want to plug for the work that you do covering the WNBA, tennis, everything? Just anything that the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, on the Canada basketball side, we've got a bunch of Black History Month content and features that is set to roll out in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, we're very busy with Olympic qualifying stuff. And then March will be Women in Basketball Month. So super, super excited for that. So stay tuned for that. And then the W season free agency has been super cool. I host a podcast on Her Hoop Stats with Calvin Wetzel
Mhm.
called Coast to Coast, and we pretty much break down everything that happens in the WNBA and college basketball every week. We've talked about free agency a ton because the league looks very, very different, and we'll make sure to talk about where Natalie Achonwa lands too whenever we get that news. But yeah, just listen to that. Stay plugged into Canada basketball. Stay plugged into tennis. Leylah Fernandez won her match
I
in
know.
Doha this morning that I was totally watching in class and not paying attention to my professor because I had an 8 a.m. class and she started at 7:30, so it was perfect timing. Thank you, Layla, for giving me something to consume during class. My prof's definitely not listening to this, so
Yeah,
it's all good. But
you're good.
yeah, the
Awesome.
Canadians are doing well.
And the Canadian women are doing well as well. So it's awesome to see. And thanks so much for doing this, Karina, and check out all your stuff. And hopefully I can, hear back from you maybe this summer, and maybe you have a little bronze medal around your neck of some sort, I guess, or something like that. So thanks so much for doing this.
That'd be nice. Thanks, Alex.